let's pretend like this is the first time. You're shining on down, shining on down. You're sparkling. Oh, what have you
So,
done
guys,
to
this
me?
is Anthony. And as I said
Hi.
in all the announcements, you maybe know him from way back when as Lakeshore Twink. Or
Yeah.
now that he's all grown up, he's a Lakeshore Twunk. I'm loving this shirt. I love this one.
Thank you
It's
so
worn it before.
much.
It's so cute.
I wore it just for
Yeah,
you.
I know he's an Anthony. That's like guaranteed hottie status right there.
Aw.
Fucking guaranteed hottie status. Yes. So
Oh
he
gosh.
has an incredibly layered and unique and complex story. So, Anthony, go ahead and tell us a bit
Yes.
about yourself.
Ooh, okay. Yes, I feel like it's a job interview.
Yes, it
First of
is.
all, happy Pride. Happy Pride to everyone listening. I'm trying not to cut off the top of my head. Um, how do I start? My name is Anthony. Some of you may know me as Rural said as Lakeshore Twink, Lakeshore Twunk, Strep Twink in my much more stupid days. Um, I grew up in primarily in Iowa in the Midwest, but I was born in California, and had my mom and my dad and my sister. I grew up very religious, and not to spoil anything, but I ended up, realizing I was queer probably around 15, 16, and I ran away from home at 17, left as soon as I could, to Chicago, and ended up living right downtown in the South Loop with actually someone I met off Twitter
Woohoo.
at the time who was known at the time as at Lakeshore Gay. So my name is now sort of an homage to my late friend.
That is adorable.
Thank you.
Yeah. So,
And
oh, sorry, I'll let you keep
oh
going.
no, I'm sorry, pardon
No,
me. I
no,
was just
no.
gonna say I just finished like 3 year, stint in DC, and I'm finally in New York where I've always wanted to live.
Finally, out of fucking DC. The nightmares that this poor guy went through in that fucking hellhole.
Oh gosh. I mean, who went through more, Jesus or Lakeshore Twunk?
Well, one of them's real. So, wait, I didn't know. No, 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 no. We accept all religions in this stream. Actually, every single Christian term is censored in my chat. So,
Really?
yes.
You can do that? I need to
Oh yeah,
join
you
Twitch.
could select any words you
I
want,
can
and
join
I
need
even select which ones to allow. We got cunt.
wow.
We got faggot. Yeah, we got bitch. We got all the fun words.
Absolutely.
All the fun words. It's a shame
I
we
need
don't get
it.
all the audio over on Zoom. You found out you were gay at 15.
Yeah. I found out, I think, is a very generous term. I guess it's accurate, but I think I and many other queer boys and girls and days can relate to feeling othered and different at a certain time when, you're told you're a certain way
You're
or
too
you are
soft.
this or
You're too
you are that.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, they come up with the words and the labels to call you certain things and label you something when you have no idea who you are because most kids don't know
Mm.
who they are, if gay or straight or etc. And so I think I was labeled gay or, girly or effeminate. And I was just a kid trying to read my books and watch my movies. I wasn't causing any trouble for anyone. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
sort of it sort of developed into a situation where very quickly it became almost like my existence was a problem in general, no matter what I did.
We brought
In
this up
at
vaguely in the one with River,
uh-huh.
where we were talking about like
Oh,
the existence for in him. It was his case. It was Catholic, but we were talking about, we said it
uh,
wasn't the things that you heard in church as much as things you heard leaving church. The gatherings of the adults and the people when they would talk and
mhm.
say things about you behind your back and to your face.
Yeah,
Those conversations.
yeah. Very, very much so. I think it was, and I don't know how deeply you want me to get into this and
As
on
deep
the
as you
religious
want. As
level, or
deep
if,
as you want.
oh, as deep as you want. I mean, I'm used to hearing that.
Yes,
But
this is a verse queen here,
this is
guys.
this is a
Verse
safe
bisexual
space.
queen. We got all the good stuff
Um,
going on here tonight.
thank you. I I think very quickly anything I did, people would comment on like I was, like shout out to River, which their music is great, and I feel like growing up Catholic is its own trauma and struggle in
Oh my
itself.
gosh, it is. Yes.
Any organized religion really, but I grew up a Jehovah's Witness, and so that was a
Okay,
different
you get all the
different
prizes for
branch
that.
and
You
layer.
get all the prizes for that
Ah,
one.
no, no, it's not a competition, but it
But
was
if it
different.
was, but if
That's
it
what I would say.
was, if it was.
If it was, we would all get participatory trophies because we are the snowflake generation.
I like that. Okay, that works. I'm trying to get you a little
Uh,
bit bigger,
oh,
a little
okay,
bit
yeah, I
more
was
full
full
size.
size. And so whether it be, walking a certain way or saying certain things, or hanging out, with mostly the girls,
Or hanging with the
they
teacher more than the
With
students.
exactly,
Yep.
yep, very, very that. So in the congregation, as they called the church for the Jehovah's Witnesses, they have elders instead of pastors.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the elders would just talk to my dad, who was an elder himself, and, be like, Anthony's doing this or Anthony's doing that, or, maybe try to advise him. So, it was very weird to be spoken to about homosexuality and like sexual urges and desires when I was like 11 or 12. And that's not something any boy wants to talk about with any adult, you
Precisely.
know, let alone someone
Parents.
who
Yeah.
you're supposed to trust
Mm-hmm.
is like supposed to take care of you in the church. It was a very bizarre upbringing, but in a sort of, Harper Lee To Kill a Mockingbird way, I had a
Oof.
great childhood and I found so much normal in amidst all the chaos of living essentially and being raised in a doomsday cult.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I found that refuge was first throughout books and movies and TV shows, but then, as I gained access to the internet, it was developing friendships and community and conversations and learning about the world
Very much the
outside of
same.
my
Yeah.
yeah, outside of my small town of 250 people, in Northwest Iowa, uh, that, I think it's a key difference that we have from older, queer generations and generation in general of we have at our disposal, so much
Mm-hmm.
information
Yeah. And
that
we
in
have the
like
ability to have
outreach.
community even in like sometimes complete isolation.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
yeah.
like, well, I understand all the problems. It's like I could never hate the internet because without the internet, I probably would not be the person I am. I probably wouldn't even be alive at this point. If we're being 100, you want
Yeah,
to talk about going
yeah.
deep in full honesty right there. Yeah.
No, and I'm so thankful to it because I met people like you and I met so many other people who have saved my life. I mean, you could even count friends I've made through Grinder, that's still the internet. I'm not on Sniffies, but I'm sure that has many transformative experiences in itself. And
Very
so I'm
immersive.
very yes, very immersive. So I'm very thankful for it, but at the same time I've definitely learned
You
how
definitely are
not
looking
to use
back.
it.
Yeah. It's definitely, it's funny. It's a way where all those bastions and all those safe things. And then you look back when you've had more experience, more awareness, and you're like, holy fuck, what was I doing?
Yeah, yeah. I'm so glad that I think I've had more than one Twitter account because I think I've had a Twitter since I was like 16.
Oh, wow.
And I'm so glad some of those things are just not searchable, at least not to my ability or most
Mm-hmm.
people's. Um, but I'm so thankful for you having me here today to be able to talk
Of
about, these
course.
experiences. I think it's very important to, highlight people, even people who are not celebrities and popular, like
Yeah,
most
yeah.
of your friends, who
Definitely.
you interact with,
Oh,
Rural.
I wish most of mine were like celebrity friends. Like I said, you're bisexual, and
Yes, I am.
I feel like that's going to be a much more interesting version of coming out, accepting yourself, coming to terms with yourself, than sort of being very strictly, obviously one or the other. In this case, just being gay. Because I mean, who the fuck has to accept being straight? Oh no, I'm straight. My parents in the theater will be so disappointed in me.
I feel like Kids who have gay parents definitely must have that experience though of like, should I, be this way or, am I like I don't want to disappoint them. I've had like two friends express like how um welcoming their parents were and how much they embraced, other dynamic lifestyles. So they were, being straight to them was very mundane, even
Hmm.
if it's what they ended up being.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting like that. But like for your bisexuality, was it? Did you feel your quote unquote? I hate saying this. I hate using this terminology, but just for the sake of simplicity, did you sort of find your straight side before you found your gay side, or was it the other way around?
That is a really good question. I think I would say, one, we weren't supposed to be, if I'm
Any
allowed
sort
to
of
be,
sexuality?
well, yeah, technically,
Yeah.
we're in the church in the kingdom halls, they call it, you weren't allowed to go on dates without a chaperone, and you weren't really supposed to be unaccompanied, whether you were straight or not,
Mm-hmm.
definitely you weren't supposed to be queer. So, when I hit puberty and I was like, searching up, adult websites for the first time, I went to the straight side to begin with. And like, things worked fine, I was stimulated and
Oh.
but I didn't but I didn't really I think like I'm trying to like turn the wheels here. I think I did that because that was what was expected.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I got older and came out, I embraced the gay side. And then I realized, wait, I was pinned, a label was pinned onto me of, whether I was gay or bi or straight. And I never really got to explore that. And I never got to determine for myself who
Mm-hmm.
I was. And
Yeah.
now it's up to me. And I realized I actually, have and, would fuck women. And, I think for me, I and I get this question all the time of, oh, do you like guys or girls more? And for me, I really boils
Mm.
down to personality.
Yeah.
I would say I see myself ending up more with a guy, but I don't think in any way that undermines or should undermine, an identity or, how I identify as bisexual. I mean, Gore Vidal believed that everyone was, born bisexual
I
and sort of
genuinely believe
society
that
just buried
too.
it.
Yeah.
I do too. I like to believe that. But the way some gay men react when they see or even hear the word vagina is quite comical.
Did you have a question? Let's try to get a back and forth going on.
Ooh, a question for you, Earl.
Yeah. Well, no, ask yourself a question.
Did I, ask myself a question. Yeah, I mean, it's Pride Month, so let's talk about maybe which would you rather know? The first gay bar experience I had or the first gay, experience I had with another boy?
Hmm. First gay experience with another boy.
That's a funner one, isn't it? So it was senior
Yeah,
year of high
Jay
school.
agrees. Jay said, yeah, number two.
Yeah.
Number two.
Okay, perfect. It was senior year of high school, and there was this boy in class, and I was entering my rebellious phase after I'd
Fuck yeah.
had after I'd had a night where I just lay awake in bed and I realized I had to be the master of my own destiny, no matter what the religion, prophesized and was telling me that was going to happen to me if I decided to be queer.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of told myself if the end comes, because it's a doomsday cult
Mm-hmm.
and it's they're constantly, telling you that the end is coming. They go ahead and tell you this and they say that anyone who's not in the religion and anyone who sins is going to be destroyed and is going to be killed.
Mm-hmm.
And so to them, unofficially, but still so, being gay or being queer is probably the worst sin you can be. I lied awake at night and I was thinking if the end comes, would I rather, live my life in the church and never really being able to be my true self and do everything that they want me to do, even though they're still not going to like me? Or would I rather the end come if it does come and end up falling in love and having a family and being, so-called happily ever after? And I decided that I would take that chance, at the time, whether or not what I'd been taught was correct. And I decided to leave the church. And as senior year started, I, would tell my parents I was going to go to the church whenever, sometimes they wouldn't go.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd tell me, "Oh, well, Anthony, you have to go," and I would be like, "Yeah, I went to, I went to church today," and I would
Mm-hmm.
just, drive around my truck until like the meeting was over and, screw off, just being a normal teenager. But
Oh
back
yeah.
to the point of, senior year, there, I started just breaking all sorts of rules and staying out late and doing whatever I wanted. Nothing too rebellious, just rebellious completely in terms of the morals I'd been brought up in.
Mm-hmm.
So on my birthday, which is November 13th, um, I was 16 and turning 17, if you want to start singing the song.
Mm-hmm.
But I literally was 16 going on 17. And I remember this guy, and this was like the time of like Netflix and chill, if you remember that phrase. And
Oh yeah.
this guy was very cute and he was like a jockish type. And I believe his name was Jose. I don't know what he's up to these days. But he was like, hey, like, my parents are gone. We should like watch a movie. And I was like, yeah, oh my God, like, have you seen The Notebook? That's such a great movie. It's so cute. And which is probably the gayest fucking movie you could recommend to a boy to
Yes. Oh
watch.
my gosh.
And he'd never seen it. And I was like, you have to watch The Notebook. And I was like, do you have a Blu-ray player? Because of course I was that bitch even at 17. And he's like, no, I don't have one. So I transported my Blu-ray player with the movie over and I spent my birthday, with him that evening. And we were, just cuddled up together, just sitting next to each other, I should say. And before I know it, I'm having like my first kiss with a boy.
Ooh.
And I was very surprised at that because I'd kissed a girl before, but that was like on a dare. It didn't mean anything. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't necessarily have feelings for this boy either, but it was something new and experimental. And I think I literally lost, my, not like, necessarily like topping or bottoming, but I literally lost my virginity orally, I suppose, if you want to call it that, to the Notebook playing in the background. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when on the night of my 17th birthday.
Was he an
And
older guy in school? The same age?
surprisingly enough, I think he was a sophomore. He might have been a freshman, but I think he was a sophomore. Don't let the
Damn,
age gap people
no,
hear this.
I wanted to make the joke. I was hoping he was like a year ahead of you because I could make the joke, the double layered joke there. Because if you're 16
Uh-huh.
on 17, was he 17 going on 18?
Oh my gosh. No, he was the younger one, but still within, reasonable age because I was only 17.
Yeah.
And I think after that, it was the week later, and I was just freaking out because I'd never done anything sexual, and I'd never kissed or touched a boy, and I felt so guilty. And I remember asking a friend, and I was like, "Am I gonna get in trouble? Like, am I gonna get sick? Should I get tested?" And I remember, I even went to like the STI clinic like in my rural town of Iowa, and I got tested for like HIV even though I'd done nothing that would have
Yeah.
probably transmitted that possibly. So there was
I held
a
a
lot of
boy's hands. What's going to happen to me?
yeah, there was a lot of that panic, I think, the first 2.5 years
Because all of our
that I
education
was
surrounding
queer.
gay sex in general is just scare tactics and fear based.
Oh yeah, I remember, actually, this is so funny. I remember I was 18. This was after I'd ran away to Chicago. I'd turned 18. I ran away when I was 17, but I lived there until I was like 20. And I remember asking an infamous account, actually, it was at DC Homos, and I told them like, hey, like I'm wondering, if I should be on prep. I keep hearing a lot of like guys are on it. Like, I don't know what it is. I was hoping, like, should I be on it? What do you think? And he instead of, and I get we are going through things and it's not anyone's job to educate anyone, but instead of even like sending me a link or any information, this was someone who I looked up to, and their retort was, "Are you like having that much sex, really? To like necessitate be on it?" Which is
Which is a
such a
stupid
ludicrous
question.
response. Yes, yes.
It
It's just such
doesn't
a ludicrous thing to
matter.
say now. Yeah.
It's a preventative. People, take prep, okay? If doesn't matter if you're sucking off one person a year or if you're getting fucked left, right, and center every day of the week, be on prep because
Yes.
it's safer to be safe. Okay? And also make sure you get tested regularly. Make sure that they're keeping track of your health because there's alternatives to prep that can do the same thing. So There is no excuse for it. Prep and doxy prep, yes.
And
Iconic.
I had time of my life. I actually ended up back in DC for World Pride. And
Oh,
I ended up staying
nice.
with some of you may know him if you followed any lore at all. And I'm not that important, but if you followed my page, I ended up staying with IBM Daddy.
Yeah.
Um, and we
IBM
celebrated
Daddy
some
does
of
get a
Pride
slight
together.
little heart. Where it's a small one, but he gets a little heart.
Yeah, he
It's
gets a
been
small heart.
yeah.
We are after all children needing other children, as Miss Barbara Streisand said, no matter our age.
Gay.
Uh
But speaking
yes,
of song
I
references, the whole thing you're talking about with that whole idea of is it worth it or do I just want to be myself? I was just sitting here this whole time thinking Siri, Q Heaven by Troye Sivan.
oh, I love that song. And that
I
came
mean,
out while I was in
obviously
high
you would
school.
love that song because that's literally that story right there.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Oh, I had a very, we talk about religion.
Mm-hmm.
The religion in my life is many
Music.
times music,
Mm-hmm.
music and film. And I was barricade for Troy Sivan's World Pride set,
Mm, oh my
in which
god.
he did like an hour set and he did Rager Teenager, which is my favorite song. And
Yep.
I had a great World Pride. I actually just got a text message from someone I met at a club there and they were telling me, oh, like, did you go hard? Like, did you survive, World Pride? What parties did you do? And
Mm-hmm.
truthfully, I only went to the music festival and one other party besides checking out bars. And this guy was telling me about how he went to like every party and every after
Oh
party, like
wow.
every night until Monday. And like kudos to him. I'm not here to judge, and I would never judge someone's, partying or how they celebrate their queerness, especially during our month and
Mm-hmm.
how sacred that is. But it reminded me a lot of the position I was in back when I was 21, 22, or younger. And, or younger and meaning like not even able to go to bars because I also turned
That
21
was a
like
discriminate.
during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't able to enter the bars even with an ID because everything was so shut down.
Yeah.
And for my generation, I think you can see this as well, Rural, being online, our role models or my role models were YouTubers, they were, and I'm sure now for a lot of kids and teens, they're like Twitch streamers and people and OnlyFans content creators. But for me, it was like seeing queerness celebrated in like my age group and lived in reality was coming from Instagays that, auto-tune their pictures and it's just distorted expectations.
Mm-hmm.
A sort of a new form of like the magazine supermodel of like these unreachable body standards and expectations of wealth and traveling and etc. And I would
Incredibly
be,
curated depictions of life and such.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. And I would catch myself like beating myself up so many times because I was like, my life doesn't look like this. I don't have these clothes. I don't go on these trips. Like this kid is like 19 or 20 and he's being, flown off to Provincetown or Fire Island or, very in retrospect now, it sounds very stupid, but it's such a normal thing for a teenager to feel, FOMO and left out and
Yeah.
to want to be a part of something that in reality,
Doesn't
it's their
exist.
lives are, yeah, it doesn't exist and their lives aren't really
Mm-hmm.
as glamorous or as perfect as one might make them out to be,
Mm-hmm.
living in a more sheltered environment.
It's like
And
kids were growing up thinking that they wanted to have the skins life, and in reality, their life was just dairy girls.
yeah, that's such a good reference. I would prefer Dairy Girls, honestly.
Seriously,
It's kind
though,
of
yeah.
like
I need a sassy
like
atheist nun to be the bitch in my life that sets me
yes,
right.
at LakeshoreTwunk. Do you have a favorite star in the industry? Mine is Reese Rideout. Okay, I love that last
Oh,
name.
yeah, I love Reese is a cutie.
Thank you. And hi Gavin, nice to meet you. I hope that we can chat some more
Gav's
in
adorable.
the future. Thank you. I can't wait to get to know him. And I don't know why I said thank you. Okay, no, but I need to check out Reese Rideout but I remember growing up in Iowa because I don't follow porn too closely, but when I was growing up, I think some of my awakenings were like the Helix Studio Boys, so that was like way back. And they're still doing things. They're
Oh
still
yeah.
very successful. But I know there was one video, and I'm not even kidding. I remember the exact name, and it was like a little bit of an awakening of like, oh, gay porn is hot. Like gay sex, this is like there's something here. I think it was called Peaches and Cream, and I don't know who exactly was in it. I'm probably getting the stars wrong, but I do remember the name of that film is called Peaches and Cream from Helix. And but the two stars that probably gave me an awakening were Joey Mills and Blake. You know who I'm talking about.
Blake Mitchell. Yeah.
Yes, Blake Mitchell. Yes, yes. I think he goes by a different name
His real
now.
name is
But
Lane V. Rogers.
yes, yes, yes. And so those two were definitely an awakening for me. And oh, and
Hmm.
thank you. I think that's Gavin in the
Yeah,
comments. I think he
it
just complimented
is.
my smile.
Uh
Thank you
huh.
so much, Gavin. You're so sweet.
So
And I think it was those. And recently,
Wes Campbell and
there's
Joey Mills. Okay.
was that who it was? Is
Yep.
Wes still making stuff?
I'm not sure about Wes. I know Joey is still going like
Yeah.
full on.
Joey still I feel like I look at him and he hasn't aged a day.
Seriously, Joey and Leo Grand slash Chad Alec. They do not age at all. In fact, I think Chad looks younger than he did before.
Is
Except for
Chad Dances with Leos?
his body is buffer. Yes,
Yeah,
definitely Leo's.
he like I remember how old he is, but I was very
He's in his
shocked when I
30s.
learned.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
know
I
there was
was
a whole
very
thing where
shocked.
people were like, with Blake, they were going after him. They're saying that, this guy is such a groomer. Look at him going after this young kid. Taking it. We're like, bitches, bitches, dumbass.
Seriously?
That Blake is the kid in this situation. He's
That's
the.
insane.
You want to go, that's a child. Point at him, not Leo. You don't see a
Is
skinny
that from
tweak and you
the
just jump to assumptions.
is that the video where there was like I see a fugly dugly slut or
Yeah.
something?
Uh huh. That's a
On-
child. And that's an ugly, pimply bitch.
oh oh my gosh. Oh Megal, talk about awakenings. Oh, really quick, I want to shout out some other people who I wish I would have seen
Yes.
during World Pride because I think they were there. One guy who definitely caught my eye in the last year, I think it's Adam Westfield.
Yes.
He has like for me like the perfect like buff body and like his dick is like am I allowed to be that explicit on here?
Oh, sure.
His dick is like so thick and long and perfect. Like it's like my exact proportions that I would either want to have or have in me.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's is their name Noah?
No way,
Um
bang. No way, babes.
yeah, is he trans?
Yes,
Yes,
he
I think
is.
that
Yes, I
yes,
love him so
he is
fucking
hot
much.
as fuck.
He
Hot as
is.
fuck.
He is.
And there's other guys who I don't really know too much off the top of my
That's
head,
like if you
but
saw a picture of him, you would just be like,
yeah, there's like the Salt Lake City, like Utah boys that they're like
uh
a
huh.
couple.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm trying to think of who else was like sort of an awakening. There was this one guy who unfortunately passed away, I think like 2016 or 17. His name was Kyle, and he did
Oh.
like some gay for pay videos.
Mm-hmm.
And um, because like for me, like personally, like a bi guy's dream, like porn company is um the like hot guys fuck, if you know what I'm
Yeah.
referencing like the yeah where it's like for like the female view or something and they focus on the guy but like the,
Uh,
the chick is still in it and it's still
yeah.
straight sex um yeah so I think those would be my like favorite people like I can't come up with the names of like too many of the people in my bookmarks. I named
Yeah.
the top ones I think. Oh there's like there's Hung Skater.
Oh yeah.
um Yeah, he's very popular. But most of the bookmarks I have are either like Twink Next Door, or something, or like Buff Daddy and M in Miami. Like they don't have like the branding down to where you can be like, oh, my name is, Lane Rogers or whatever.
Yeah.
And,
So yeah,
but
for me, let's see here.
mhm.
Number one, I'd have to say currently, because I am a fickle lady. Angel Rivera. I just
Oh
he's
yeah.
such a great person. He's so sweet. Like he literally, when I got back, maybe a week after I got back from the hospital, and such, he just popped into DMs. He said, "Are you okay?" and what happened, and we just chit chatted for a while. And he's always been like
Hmm.
incredibly supportive. he wanted to do Twitch for a while. I was excited for it, but he was like, you know what? No, I'm gonna make more money if I just fuck people. So I'm gonna fuck people. I was like, oh, okay, fine. Abandon me.
Fuck people and stream it, I guess, in some form at least.
Yeah, yeah. Come on.
It's still
Be a
online.
cash dom. Be a cash dom. It's just one. It's a different form of the same thing.
What is your opinion of gay for pay stars?
Gave her pay. Well, it's like, what is the reason? What is the reason? Like,
Well,
especially
if they're
with,
doing it mainly for money,
yeah. Are we just talking mainly about like Timothy Champagne, or are we talking like the
is he?
Malik? He says, but then it's
What?
like, he's never actually really fucked a
No,
guy. He's never actually really
my heart is
when
broken.
go check out the videos where he's topping a guy. His dick is never actually inside anybody. He's never actually hard. And let's, if we want to talk about fuck ass gay for pay pieces of shit, let's talk about Pierce
Oh,
Paris. Not
there's
that he's
Paris.
relevant anymore. Okay, you want to talk about old internet, old Twitter, saw stuff. Pierce Paris, you might know him as the guy who had a little race car go on a racetrack and shoot into a cup that was in his butthole, or the guy who shot douche water out of his butt on live on Twitter, on the Twitter.com, on the Bird app. Yeah,
Did
he.
I? Who is this man?
You're gonna do the full search. You're gonna do research right now. He was crazy.
Okay. Oh, he has 332,000.
He still has some follow. Why he still has
Oh,
followers?
I'm looking at the bottle cap challenge that he did. Like he moved it with he took the bottle cap off a bottle with his dick. He like swiveled around and took it off with
Honestly,
his dick.
that
And
is
I
the tamest one out of all of those sensationalized performative acts that he did. And this is a guy who was like openly talking about, you know what, fucking Viagra and fucking Cialis aren't enough for me. I need something stronger. I need injections to get hard. And it's like, honey, honey,
wait, let's talk about the injections. Let's talk about that for a second, if we may.
the substance.
Really, for real. Wait, but what were you gonna say about the injections before I tell my
I'm
little
just saying that with the whole thing, like, honey, at that point, if you're struggling that hard to get remotely turned on by pure physical stimulation, fucking think of a different career in life. It is not
Yeah.
working.
Uh I agree because I the only time that I did Trimex shots, because that's one of the brands I believe it might be the only one where you inject something into your penis in order
Yeah.
to strengthen it, was at a sex party, an after hours sex party in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And it was Thanksgiving 2022, 2023, something like that. And it was, first of all, they escort you, like, you get the tickets for this thing and you have to pay for like a taxi. And that taxi hits every imaginable bump in the road
Blah,
possible.
blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly that. And it's 20 minutes long to get there all the way up in the mountains. It's this isolated villa.
Honey, you want that
And you
experience?
get
Just come
there,
to this fucking town. Our roads will give you all the bumps you want.
but no sex party with hundreds of boys.
True, true. Although, mind
And
you, get a couple of beers and those rodeo students at the college could, you know?
I'd be down. I love me a cowboy. And uh
Yippee ki
and
fucking
so
yay.
and so I went to this party and I was hopped up on, all sorts of lively stimulants.
Mm,
And so some of those, you can't really get
yeah.
hard, and it makes it rather difficult to do so.
Happy
And
brain,
so
little
they
dicky.
were they were giving you like I think it was like $50 or $25, something like that. And for a small amount, I think it was less than 50, it doesn't matter. But they had an actual nurse, like a gay nurse, and you would come up and you would say, "Hey, like I want, a shot." And he was wearing the slutty little gay nurse outfit, and he would ask you what drugs you'd been taking or if you took any substances. And then if you were approved, you would get the injection. And I think I ended up getting it twice. over the course of that night. And that is the only time I've done that. And I don't think I will do that and run to do it anytime soon.
Okay,
But it was a
the
very
question here
fun
is,
night.
how many times did you come that night?
Oh gosh, thanks to the substances, I think I only came once, but I got some gifts from certain gentlemen,
Hmm,
which were about, three gifts.
very nice. I'm just getting a nice
Um,
little mental image right now.
no, I
Give me a
mean, by
moment.
all means, I, those events are always so peculiar for me because I feel like they're an adult man's version of like a playground full of like, what used to be boys once.
I think that's very much
Because,
something that's true in a lot of aspects of gay culture, where, because we do everything so delayed, a lot of us never really got to have a proper childhood or a proper adolescence. It was hiding, secret, and then that slow discovery. So when we get into our 20s, sometimes even when we're hitting our 30s, I'm kind of in that because I didn't come out till I was 28. So everything else was like secret, shuffling around, hiding. And then finally, at that point, I got to pop out, come out, and start living like myself. So
mhm.
I had a lot of new flavors of wild experiences. And weirdly enough, not so much of the fucking, but I did a lot of things that I never got to do. And it was like
Aw.
an explosion of stuff. And I loved it.
Pun intended.
Oh, yeah.
No, I think that you're very right on about the hiding and having sort of this secret life, or at least split self, very substance-esque. Because I think even now I struggle with it, but especially when I was out, I think I was still very private and reserved, and that made it very difficult to make friends or keep friends because I wouldn't be very open about myself, even if I was out.
I think we
I
all have,
felt,
regrettable as it may be, we all have a sort of chapter of being, I'm not one of those gays.
yeah, that, and also just maybe not, I was very apprehensive to let people in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't have regrets because I always think to myself and say, if I'm happy with where I am now and where I'm currently headed, why would I change anything?
Mm.
But if I could change any, certain things, it would probably be to just be kinder to people my age and people who were trying to get to know me, to
Yeah.
not bite the hand that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
so-called would, stretch out and feed me and was there to be a friend. I was very hostile right out of the gate because I
I
had
think I
so much
developed a lot of
anger.
sympathy for the quote unquote the mean gays because I do think a lot of it does stem from that. There's this fear and this like leftovers, even when you're out and fully accepted. It's like when a dog is a rescue and it's living a
Yeah,
good happy life. It has owners that love it, but it still has all those memories and all that trauma of being starving, being homeless, having people run at it, try to hurt it. So the
yeah.
instinct is always to bite and not to, be friendly.
I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that was my approach. And so I don't know how many people are listening or if people here are young or not out, but I think that would be my advice of the world is so much better and prettier than, you might have thought of it in your head while you were in the closet or, freshly coming out. And there's a lot more people and resources out there to help you than you think. It might just take a little bit of humility to allow yourself to be helped and to be allowed to allow yourself to be seen as not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's the biggest problem I had growing up in the congregation of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
You're taught that you must be perfect. And if you're not perfect, you're flawed and you're wrong and you are an error. You don't belong in that organization and you have to be corrected. And so I still struggle with that greatly today, and it's really affected how I allow myself to be vulnerable, seen as vulnerable. And, sometimes, even like being honest about my life or my problems with people who I'm trying to get close to. So you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be you. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that those problems also don't just stem from religion, but they can also come from certain familial, parental dynamics.
Yeah.
So
And
I
that's one of
really
those
hope
areas
that
too,
this,
yeah, where it gets complicated for you because your family dynamics are intrinsically tied to the religious trauma as well, because your family was deeply rooted in that entire thing. Like, yeah, like you
yeah,
said, your father was
yeah,
one of the elders, and
yes. Yeah, he was one of the elders, and he actually married into the religion where I was technically the third generation of Jehovah's Witnesses from my mom's side. Um, and my mom, met my dad, and he married into the religion, and he bought into it out of fear, that Armageddon would come soon.
so
So,
wait, I have to do the thing now. I have to do the thing.
yeah.
Yeah, so he was actually Catholic. Yeah, but he converted to Jehovah's Witness, and that's very rare. Different. Yeah.
Our grandmother wanted us to convert from Catholic to Jehovah.
Yeah.
My mother thinks she's Anne Margaret, putting, Coke bottles in her hair. The meatballs are burning, you know, the whole family's falling apart. That's how you know it was bad.
Right through the
Did
heart.
you see that Mrs. Cosmo came out? Ty Sunderland had her come out on set to like a remix of her monologue
I love
for
it.
We Hope Pride, and she came out in like the leopard coat and everything.
Oh my
And
god,
she,
icon.
yes, and she also I think posted a video of her like meeting Paula Abdul,
I love
which
Paula.
is incredible. I just was like thinking, girl, I hope you're not too hot under that jacket dancing for a bunch of shirtless faggots for
Mm.
Pride.
Honey, I'm from the South. We don't sweat in the South. We glisten. And
We
I'm a
glisten.
sparkly bitch.
She has she said that? That's
No, I just
absolutely
made. I
something
know.
she
I
would
just.
say.
Yeah. That just came out of my ass.
It's we need a hack situation where you end up writing her
Oh,
monologues and jokes.
oh my god.
Um, but yeah, yeah, I think that that's an important message that I'm trying to embrace this pride, and I would echo particularly stronger or louder, I should say, this month, which is such a beautiful, special month
Mm.
of remembering to be ourselves, even if we're not particularly proud of who that is, because eventually we will grow to be proud of our imperfections, because imperfections are sexy and they make us and who we are, they make us distinct. And when I think back, to, I mean, even now, sometimes I'll be like, I'll hear from time to time, oh, are you Lakeshore Twink, or are you on Twitter, or do I know you from somewhere? And even though these are mistakes and things and stupid things I said, and they were very childish actions that happened, 3 or 4 years ago or 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I've grown from them. I'm no longer embarrassed by them,
Yeah.
and I no longer care if someone's ability to have a relationship or conversation or connection with me is affected by that perspective of who I was
Yeah.
when I was a kid.
Your past is just the
Because,
past. It doesn't need to define who
yeah,
you are now.
yes. And I think that whoever's meant to be in our lives will accept us no matter who we are and despite our mistakes because they see us as the person we
They see
strive
that you've
to be.
grown. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I know definitely Rural, you've been my friend for so many
I was actually
incredible
been thinking
years,
about
and
that. It's going to segue to the
you've
next question too.
yeah, okay, would you like to
Well, no, I
ask
kind of
it
want
or
you to
should I?
finish this because, well, I want you
Okay.
because, yeah, it's going to be a
I
big
was gonna
change in
say,
mood.
okay. I would say you've been there for me through thick and thin, and you've saved my life so many times on multiple different levels, and I can't, one, thank you enough and ever be grateful for enough for our friendship that I'm showing you, but also just how patient and how much of an incredible listener you've been,
The amount
and
of times I
oh,
had to listen to this guy cry and kvetch and moan and have a breakdown over the stupid men that he stupidly fell in love with. Oh my
yeah.
god. Dude, at one point, at
Oh.
some point, it's just come over here and I will fuck you because honestly, it's gonna be better than any of these assholes. And also, too, I just
You
want to
know
fuck you.
what?
Wait, I didn't say that, huh?
Hon-
What?
Honestly, it might be better, I do need to come down there. It's like it could even be like a Golden Girl situation of just living in a better setting, but it is
In that situation, I'm Rose. I'm Rose. I'm calling it. I want to be Rose.
who would I be? I don't think I'm Blanche. People have said I can be Blanche, but I don't know who do you say I am?
You're a slutty Sophia.
Oh, Slutty Sophia.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I will take that.
Picture it, Fire Island,
I have to.
2019.
No, gosh. I need to go to Fire Island now that I live in New York.
Yeah.
I've been to Provincetown several times. I love it there. It's one of my favorite places, but
And
not
again,
Fire
now
Island
that you're
yet.
new in New York, so I'm gonna jump into my next question. You and
Yeah.
we first started really interacting, funnily enough, in around 2020, and
Yeah.
Pride. Is that a fucking labubu in your hands?
Yes, it is.
Fuck!
Everyone say hi.
Tommy is not here, and I am so glad. God, if I have to listen to Tommy go on about a fucking labubu, oh my god, that one is actually kind of cute. It's all squishy face. Okay, yeah,
I know.
but oh my god, there's
It's
a
a Pride
bitch.
Month
There
miracle,
is a
actually.
fucking bitch in my fucking chat that was coming in all this time. I want a labubu. I want a labubu. I want a labubu. I said, get a fucking la job. That's the reaction I wanted for that joke. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Uh, okay, yeah.
You need to. That's incredible. I'm writing that
Hold on,
down.
hold on. So yeah, we first started interacting in 2020. Pride was
COVID.
canceled because COVID was happening, but at the same time, George Floyd happened, and people
Yeah.
en masse together stood up, and we had wonderful protests happening across the country. Cut to today, 2025. LA
Oh,
has had it. New York has started to have them too. People are getting up, going up to these ICE agents and just saying, no, you're not going to be doing this shit around here. We're not going to let you in. We're going to stop you. So I think in both of these cases, when we first met and today, it's about the intersectionality of pride and the fact that it's really not just about gayness, not just about queerness. It's about defending people. It's about humanity. And then it was black people, and now it's brown people, it's immigrants, it's people wanting to find careers, wanting to find purpose, and we
mhm.
are standing up for them. And throughout all those years in between of these two things, there's also been trans people, and God, the amount of stuff going on with trans people, it's been breaking my fucking heart.
Yeah. Actually, in Iowa, where I'm from, the governor who I loathe, she just actually signed a bill to go into effect to ban Medicaid from uh covering gender affirming care and hormones. She's an evil woman.
That is fucking bullshit.
It was actually Iowa was actually the first state, I'm not kidding, to strip trans people of their state constitutional rights. They're no longer protected um by the state. That's the first state in of all 50 states to do so, which is very shameful.
It is. That is repulsive.
But I believe there's a protest here in New York because there's definitely been more action going on in Los Angeles. And if I were
Mm-hmm.
there, I would
Oh
be
yeah.
out on the streets and I would be marching and organizing. Because actually, that's where I lived in LA County until I was around 8 years old. And my parents themselves are immigrants. I'm the son of two immigrants. I'm very proud of the sacrifice they made for me to be able to be born here in America so I can live here, have a life, and work hard to make it better for everyone who comes after me. And so I'm very indebted to my parents, despite, how fraught our relationship might have been in the past. But I lived in LA County and I have a very soft spot for LA County and Southern California as a whole and its Mexican diaspora. But in now that I'm in New York, I believe there is a protest going on this Saturday, so I will absolutely be joining and I will be
Fuck yeah.
using my Pride Month to not just advocate for my rights and my people's rights as, a Mexican American, but for all immigrants and for everyone, because it's not just like you said, gay people and trans people, although many of those people are immigrants and have been detained and
Mm-hmm.
deported as well. But I truly believe no one is safe until we are all safe. And we are all connected to one another. And it's disgusting how we have actual, you know, basically, state funded, Nazis just, knocking down doors and deporting people who have full
Mm-hmm.
right to be here, by given, either being granted the opportunity due to the court or actual citizens like me, who were born in this country
Mm-hmm.
and are just profiled because of the color of our skin. So I'm very happy that people are waking up. I feel very seen. I feel very loved. And and because I think Latinos not being a monolith, as other groups may be, we often go unseen or we feel invisible or like not all of our needs are met because we're so different. And there's many Latinos who aren't even connected to immigrants in any form. They've been in this country for, hundreds of years
Hmm.
because that's how far our heritage goes. But it's very nice to see people so upset because I think I hope it's not as bad as 2020. I mean, there was a lot of pent-up rage from everyone staying inside. So I hope
Oh
everyone
yeah.
doing so, I hope everyone advocating and using their civil rights and their freedom of speech is safe as well.
Yes. And well, of course, we want peaceful, we want orderly, we want all that stuff. I will always happily point out the fact that, Martin Luther King spent 11 years advocating for civil rights. After his assassination, when people took to the streets and rioted properly and, full force, it took a week. And then civil rights got signed in.
And thank God.
Mm-hmm.
And after speaking of Pride Month, after um the Stonewall riot or
Mm-hmm.
rebellion really, it we just started. I've been reading the Stonewall Reader right now, which is edited by like the New York Public Library. It was issued a few years back for the 50th anniversary. And they talk about how the whole point of it was that a lot of gays felt as though they were, criminals or was sinful or just wrong, out of the norm. And so Stonewall really pushed
Mm-hmm.
a shadowed and marginalized people into the light where we could no longer be hidden or oppressed or silenced. And it made it more matter of fact that we were walking around and we were a part
Mm-hmm.
of this country and we existed. We weren't someone that could just be pushed away and shunned and hidden. So I think visibility and is what matters the most. When it's in someone's face, it's very hard to ignore a
Mm-hmm.
real issue and a voice.
That's very interesting about the yo-yo of visibility as well. The way that when you look at the ways the cinema and like research was in the early 1900s, like movies were they weren't giving exactly the most positive, but they were acknowledging the existence of gay people. And then we have,
Yeah.
the Germans, the Sexual Institute that was doing research. And then the
Yes.
pendulum swang the other way. The books were burned. We lost decades of valuable information. The Hayes Code came in and movies were shuttered down, locked up, and
Hmm.
almost ruined, let's be honest. And then, the pendulum swing again with Stonewall and other things. And then it honestly feels like they're trying to swing it back now, but, I think we're kind of forcing it. We're keeping it in place, doing our best.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
It's so wonderful that you bring up the Institute for Sex Studies
Mm-hmm.
that was in Berlin, I
Uh huh.
believe, um, and how it was burned down.
Mm-hmm.
I
So,
remember
just to put it for anyone who doesn't know, with the Sex Institute that was in, like you said, they had information on some of the very first transgender operations. They had
absolutely.
detailed research into transgenderism. They use different words. Yes, they use different terminology because language evolves, but it's point blank irrefutable that they were talking about these things. They were doing research. They were advanced and progressed into it. Then the very first book burning was at
Hmm.
that place. They took those books, they took that research, they took everything and burned it, incinerated it. And there are almost no backup copies of any of that stuff that was there. The only thing that they did keep, actually, were the records, the medical records, so they could track down the patients, so that they could track
Hmm.
down the people that were associated with the clinic and slap a nice little pink triangle on them.
Which is not unlike what, many women, who they've encouraged other women to delete, birth control trackers and
Mm-hmm.
to delete certain information from their medical
Yep.
records or, trans people as well. There's so many things including with immigrants, of being used to keep tabs on people. And this is not a it's not any coincidence. It's a very similar thing. And so it's very unfortunate that the founder of that Sex Institute was Magnus Hirschfeld. And it's very unfortunate that so much of his work was lost. I'm not sure if our viewers remember this. You definitely do. It was the Danish Girl with Eddie
Mm-hmm.
Redmayne.
Yep.
And was it Lily Elbe, who
Yes.
was the trans woman? I might have gotten her first name wrong, but she was a very real person, and she actually got help from the Sex Institute, and her records were, I'm not sure if they were destroyed, but she, it was almost like it was more focused obviously on rigorous academic study, but it was also almost sort of like a LGBT community center of sorts of like, people could go there for help and support, and she ended up utilizing its resources. It's very unfortunate that Hirschfeld was he himself was Jewish and gay, and he was exiled to France, which is where he died around 1937. But so, in many ways, it helped him avoid a worse fate
Mm-hmm.
from what awaited, other victims in the preceding years or
Mm-hmm.
forthcoming years, sorry. But it's very sad that he lost such a great amount of his invaluable work because the work that was being done and conducted on trans people, particularly and queer people, was groundbreaking and stuff that is just, we could still use today,
Mm-hmm.
and it's still very necessary. But and so we really do need to remember our history because it's yeah, it's happening all over again, and it's crazy that it's I used to read about that stuff as a kid, about World War II, and I thought, oh well, when the time comes, I'm going to stand up if this happens again. And so many people who I have in my life, I'm just go on with their lives and
Mm-hmm.
aren't preoccupied at all. And
It's yeah. There's something almost like vaguely disheartening, not even vaguely, just disheartening about it. That we're watching things burn and crash around us, and there's people that are just going out to buy their coffee, just living, just walking through it, walking through the rubble, and it's like bizarre. It's like, why aren't you screaming at? Why aren't you like the last scene in I Saw the TV Glow? Why aren't you just standing in a room
oh,
screaming out?
I loved that
Oh my
movie.
god, I've seen it.
It should have been nominated for the Academy
Yeah,
Awards.
that's kind of how we
I
opened up Pride Month. We watched it like the last day of May.
oh, what did you
It was the
because I
second time
recommended that
watching
to
it.
you,
Yeah, it was my
and I
second time
knew
watching it, and it was like,
immediately.
oh my fucking god! Every
Was it
time,
perfect for you?
yes, it like, I mean, it's literally how the movie is, but it just like rips everything out of you. And ugh, and the trans allegories are just so beautifully presented. I just adore it. It's a mind
Yeah,
fuck, but it's beautiful.
I saw that and I remember thinking I need this to be like on a pirate site or something immediately because I need Rural to watch it because this is such an incredible film and I just knew you would relate so much to the themes of like handling, and I certainly did, like going through life and like coping with so many difficulties or just escaping through like entertainment and media. And, at some points, like almost maybe getting a little too lost in it, but it's also something that like essentially saved our lives.
Mhm. Especially you,
Mm.
because you also do a lot of writing as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have your whole life story.
Oh, I need to get back into, I'm still working on my novel, which is basically a story about a boy, who, like me, leaves an insular and isolated environment and rural town and goes out into the big world and his adventures of just
Hey, not a
how
rural town. Don't
he
come for my brand. There's only one rule
well,
in the village.
no one upstage is rural.
Yes. Darn.
A- And so I've been working on that and I'm very passionate about my writing. But I would like to get more into, I think now it's like Substack that a lot of people use.
Mm-hmm.
And, just write a little, Carrie Bradshaw-esque column, something small to, keep honing my writing skills and keep different sort of
Mm-hmm.
informal writing alive. Now that I live in New York, I mean, I have plenty to write about.
Mm-hmm. And just like that, IBM Daddy died.
Oh
No, 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 no,
no,
no, no.
no,
On his
no,
Peloton with his newest
no.
twink.
We do not want IBM
No,
Daddy to die.
no. Maybe hockey.
For,
Maybe hockey.
if some of you don't know, IBM Daddy is so when I lived in Chicago, I ran away from home and I lived with that Lakeshore gay who unfortunately
Mm-hmm.
passed away 5 years ago in March of 2020, a few days right before we went to lockdown effect with COVID. And pardon me, right after he passed away, I stayed there in with a close friend who had unfortunately found him as he passed away in his sleep. And so that was very traumatic. And we sort of leaned on each other. Honestly, I could probably write a play like about, it's set during those months of COVID from March to October of 2020. And my friend Steven and I just, relying on each other to get through what the fuck just happened. We
Mm-hmm.
lost the biggest, most important person in our lives who was this father figure and this mentor. And what are we going to do now? And so I ended up going to DC for school and I met another older guy who I didn't date at Lakeshore Gay, my friend. He was just a best friend, but I ended up dating this guy, this older guy, and I call him IBM Daddy. And he and I have certainly have our had our ups and downs.
Roller
Um,
coaster. Roller
oh,
coaster.
roller coaster, roller coaster. And I think it just comes when, you know, one, there's an age gap, but also there's so many power dynamics at play. But it got to the point where I care very much about him, but there needs to be some distance in order for the bird to sort of fly off from the nest and be able to successfully take flight. So I've sort of taken some space from him and not been as I would say not clingy, but as, hey, what are you doing? Let's talk, what's up? Um, and it also helps that I met his new situationship who he's hanging out with, and he's currently texting me for advice on
So you
how
basically
how
had
to ha
your girl is lovely Hubble moment.
Yes, yes, honestly, yes, because um in yes, but I'm not. I think with Hubble it was so much more painful because,
Yeah.
well, maybe actually it was. I don't know. It depends on which side of the way you're on.
Yeah.
Do you believe that Hubble could have changed? Do you believe that Katie should have changed? Or do you believe that they neither were at fault and
I
people,
think neither of them. I just think that it's like you and IBM. They were good, but they just weren't good when they were together the whole time.
yeah,
They were better as boats passing in the night.
yeah. And that's sort of how I feel about Rugby Boy at the
Oh my
moment.
gosh,
At
rugby.
at, at the moment.
Mm. Okay, I
But
get because Gruff has hockey boy. You have rugby boy. We've got all the sports going. There's balls all over the place. Gosh,
it reminds
balls,
me of the
balls on the side of my face. Breathing, heavy breathing.
what is it? The Clueless
Yeah.
quote, where she tells the gym teacher, I can't and they're playing tennis, and she goes, I can't, my plastic surgeon says I can't have any activity where balls fly at my nose. And then Dion goes, well, there goes your social life.
Mm, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. So
But
going
it
into
is very
IBM. Oh,
yes. Oh yeah,
so yeah,
let's
well,
get
with
into that.
IBM, it's like hey, he was one daddy, but you've had a few others, and so
I
where are you
have.
with your daddy phase? Are you still? Do you still
Oh,
appreciate the allure of the older gentleman? Haven't you ever
um,
sat in a walk-in tub while the man with the shakes washes your coochie for you?
ah,
That's one of the
one
random
time.
quotes that pops up in our. We have a thing that does random quotes on here. That's one of them. It's an Anna Nicole Smith spoof on Psycho Bitches.
Oh, rest in peace to Anna
Uh,
Nicole Smith,
oh yeah, the other
as
one
Nicki
from
Minaj also
the other one
said.
from her. I think we have the video for this one. She's trying to set up the therapist with a friend. She says, "What's the highest you'll go with a man? 90, 89. Okay. we're setting you up with Bernard, who's 72. No, 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 I can't date some. But he's got chronic emphysema and $500 million in Facebook stock and the longest balls you've ever seen.
That sounds
Whoosh,
accurate. See, I
whoosh,
haven't gone that
whoosh.
old. I haven't gone that old, but I do appreciate an older gentleman. I think that now I think thanks to IBM and thanks to just realizing like I can be my own person and I don't have to rely on anyone. You know, no one's gonna fill that hole I have in my heart. They might fill another hole, but they're not gonna fill that psychic hold hole, I should say, of like having a father figure, having someone who's able to tell me what I should and shouldn't do. I have to decide for myself. And as terrifying as that is,
It's better to
I,
do that than just be
yes,
dependent on another
it
person.
can't be exactly that word. I can't be dependent because that gets very toxic
Mm-hmm.
and very dangerous very quickly because you are at the whim of that other person. And what that is called, it's called an abusive relationship. So
Yes.
for me, I think I'm able to express my autonomy and my boundaries a lot more clear. I stand up for myself, and I've recently entered a phase of, hey, I'm gonna make an effort, and if you reciprocate it in terms of friendship, romance, anything, that's fine. But I'm not going to beg because there are other things that serve me greater that are waiting out there instead of begging after something that is not there for me. And why should I want something that's not for me?
Precisely.
And I think that I'm in a much better and healthier place now where I probably wouldn't date someone above 40, 30, 41. It would take an exceptional rarity because for me, I'm still go, go, go. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not I'm not go, go, go in terms of I'm gonna go to the party and the after party, Friday through Monday on a Pride weekend. More power to those who do. And it's not because I can't. It's just
Oh yeah, you've
I
had your
don't
parties. You've had your party phase.
I've had my party phase and I still love going to a
Mm-hmm.
party. I like doing those activities with people I love and my close friends. And if they want to do it, then I'll go with them. But there's also so many other things we can do. Like, there's and it takes so much out of you, but I also don't want to sit at home on a Friday or Saturday. Like there's a gap between the circuit party or the sex party and staying in and just watching TV every day of the week instead of coming up with fun and refreshing activities or having a friend group to like take you out of the house. And I think that's where IBM and I had the most strife, where I was always ready to go out and do things. That could be drinking, that could be doing trivia, that could be just going out to a movie. And for him, he considered that going out, even if
Yeah.
it wasn't drinking or partying. And it was very frustrating to be with someone who was at a different speed, yet you still care about them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that in communication and maturity are the only three things that I really would need to secure and make sure that we're on the same page in terms of if it were being an older partner, but really any partner, to be honest. I think
Yeah.
those are foundational building
Well,
blocks of any
they're as
relationship
important in
of
friendships as they are in like a romantic relationship or any other thing.
yeah. Yeah, so I think that's where I'd say I am. Not that I will ever turn down someone saying, "Hey, like, let me buy you a drink or let me take you out to dinner," because you know what? We have to save money for law school. Life is expensive, and unfortunately, we have been spoiled for the past 3 years by IBM and other men
Mm-hmm.
to live a certain quality of life. And so leaving was certainly a rude awakening, and it was very hard, but I'm very proud I did it. And I would say to anyone who's in a similar situation of, somewhere where they might love the person truly, but but it's also like about wanting more.
Yeah.
I'm happy, I'm comfortable, but do I want more? And this was a dream of mine to live in New York and be on my own. And
Mm-hmm.
we talked about it, but IBM commuted to work to New York from Jersey like every day for several years, several years. And he was tired of that environment, even though it's not the same as actually living in the city.
Yeah.
And for him, it was a deal breaker. He didn't want to go and move to the city. Otherwise, it probably would have continued a little bit longer.
Hmm. And it's like I know this is a very more complicated side of things, and one of those ones where people can get excessively judgmental. But it's like your relationship with IBM sort of teetered in and out of being a sort of almost sugar daddy, sugar baby setup as well, when he was providing a lot of the financial security and the living residence, even to the point of detriment at one point, because it's like you were trying to get out, but you had you were living with him and you didn't have like a good backup plan, and so it just sort of
Yeah.
kept you yo-yoing back into that when you were already getting this feeling that this isn't something that's healthy and this isn't something I want to continue. But since you didn't have like a solid escape plan,
Yeah.
yeah.
I definitely felt trapped, and I unfortunately at the time I was really struggling through depression and anxiety, where and I'd been struggling with that ever since I left the church because I didn't have really a routine. I didn't have a community. I was completely on my own, even if I was living with a friend, but I was living with someone who was from a completely different world from what I had been used to and what I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was very equally hard and weighed heavily on IBM. And so I don't think I would ever call him a sugar daddy. I'm sure
Yeah.
other people would. There were certainly some aspects where, I might have taken advantage more than I should have. I mean, more than I did, yeah, should have.
Yeah.
And it might there's some people who could have called it that, but I truly did love that man. And I think
Yeah.
what got frustrating was that I wanted more independence and I wanted to leave to New York and I wanted to be my own person. And he just couldn't keep up with me after a certain point, and nor should he have had to. I mean, he was 50, you
Yeah.
get to a certain point. I mean, you're running around with like a 23-year-old. It's you ha not everyone is built for it.
You
Not
know, this,
everyone is built
this
for it. And I probably took years off that man's life.
I gotta be honest. You know what? I keep remembering the fact that he is white as fuck, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that explains why he looks like that at 50. Okay,
Oh, you be
yeah.
kind. You be
I
kind.
am being kind. I am being kind.
No, I think he looks a lot better than most white men in his
Oh, very
50s,
true, very true.
in their 50s. Believe me.
Yeah.
Believe me. Yeah. I don't think he's unattractive by
Oh,
any
trust me.
means.
I live in a rural town. I have seen nightmares of the wrinklies, and they're like in their
There are people
30s.
who are younger
Mm-hmm.
girl, there are people who are 20 fucking five and like look absolutely tragic.
Yeah. There was this one guy when I was working at the grocery store. And it's like people were talking. I overheard, and they were saying that, oh, he just graduated from high school. It's like, what the fuck? I looked at him. This guy didn't just have under eye bags; they were cracked, like dry skin with heavy lines. I thought
Oh,
this
that's
guy
so
was maybe like
sad.
35 or something. There's
Have you
another
seen that
one.
picture of that viral picture of like the soldier before and after the Civil War?
Yeah. Uh huh.
Okay, but Rural, you can't blame us. Like Gen Z, we are going through a lot of goddamn fucking stress. Like
True.
with
True. True.
every
True.
like it is a phenomenon that we are aging. We're aging faster.
Oh
But you
yeah.
know what? Uh what is it? Brown don't frown. I'm trying to take care of
Yeah.
myself, wear that sunscreen and retinol every day, and taking my
It's looking good
little
on you.
happy pills. Oh, thank you. And taking my little happy pills to decrease my stress and anxiety. So we can't talk too much on IBM because he did provide me for 2 years his health insurance plan, and he got me on track to a much better road towards recovery.
Yeah. And
I think
I do
ultimately
ultimately like, I think he is a really good person. It's just like, you two in,
I'm a lot.
you two were a lot. Yes. Both of you together. It was like, it was a sparring match. That's the best way I could think of putting it. It was
I
a
think
sparring match with you two.
Oh, absolutely. Like the things we said to one another were so unbelievably cruel, horrific. Like I'm pretty sure you could include them in transcripts of, convicted people at The Hague, for war crimes.
Oh
They
no.
were truly, truly heinous things. I remember during one of our bouts,
In fact, we
um,
have the screenshots. No, I'm not going to do that.
we if you Exhibit A.
No.
I believe that at one point, I'm not even going like kidding. He was recording me for the police, for documentation. I was recording him, and it was just so beyond ridiculous and bizarre. It was this Karen moment for both of us. Of I had the camera facing him, he had the camera facing me, and it was like, this is just like in my head, I was like, we are so stupid. Like what are we even doing here? And so I think that relationship going to such extremities also taught me about how much I really don't have to tolerate. And I don't ever want to be in that bad position. And I hope that that's God, it will be the worst. It will be the lowest of any relationship I'm in because I don't want to be in that. I don't want to be in that again, you know. It's very stressful. It's very scary,
Mhm.
and I don't like how I feel. You never feel good arguing with someone you love or a partner, even if you're right. Um,
All right. Do you have a
yeah.
question for me now? Let's get this back
Oh,
and forth.
I do have a question for you. I wanted to ask, what is your favorite? Have you been to many prides?
I have been, let's see here. I did LA 2019, and then I went from there to Las Cruces here in New Mexico,
Oh,
Southern New Mexico Pride that same year. And then I did LA Pride again, 2023, and that's been it because after that, 2024 happened with the hospital and everything, and then
yeah.
that took me out the whole time. And then this year it's just been, all the financial trouble and everything, so it's just not feasible. But I did find out there was a Pride in Albuquerque, and fucking Brock Banks was there. I was like, fuck.
Oh my
He
God.
literally lives in near Albuquerque too. It's like, oh fucking hell, bitch, come here. Let me use your pool. I want to talk
Yes.
to you. I want to
I
meet your husband. His husband is like such an amazing cook. Oh my god.
Oh, really?
Yeah, white boy cooks
I love to
amazing
cook.
Mexican food.
Oh, I love yeah.
Oh,
I'll
a
be the judge of
cultured
that.
white man. A cultured white man. What?
I Well, I hope that things continue to improve and we can go to a pride together
I would love that.
soon. And I believe they will.
Yeah,
I'm
I'll meet you in the
here for
dark room.
you.
What?
Uh, I'll be at the sling. I've actually never been
It's
on
so
it in
funny.
a sling.
I could have. I was literally at let's horse meet in LA 2023. Yeah,
Yes, horse
Liam
meat.
just sent me the message. He was like, "Hey, the tickets are here. Grab these real quick." I was like, "Oh, I barely know what I've
Mhm.
heard of this. I think I think I heard of it because of you. Because of
Yes,
you. It was your
it
fault."
was
So
you.
yeah, so I grabbed the ticket. It was like really cheap because it was like early access for like a few hours. I got it literally while I was standing in line at Universal Studios in the for the what was it? I think the Indiana Jones ride.
Nice.
Yeah, and I got the ticket and I went there and there was a full darkroom set up. There were drinks there, but honestly, I never did any. I had one drink and that was about it. I just got like
Hmm.
totally sucked into the vibe. There was the music going hard, these close proximity to all these beautiful men of various body types. It's not just one
Wow.
body type, people. This is not a
No.
circuit party. This is a totally different experience. You have bears there. You've got the muscle gods. You've got twinks. You've got otters. There's body hair, and everyone is dripping with sweat and musk. It is
Mm.
gorgeous. It's an
I love
aroma.
me.
And
I'm glad we can
I
all,
did want to,
yeah.
I literally starved myself that day because I was like, I'm going to this thing. I want to go that dark room. I want to get my ass fucking plowed the fuck out. I want to walk out of there sounding like a fucking tunnel with a hurricane on the other side of it. But no,
Sounding,
I was just dancing with people. I was just touching guys' bodies. I was just moving through crowds, rubbing up
oh,
against chests, tasting, feeling, smelling sweat, and it was like it was the
mm.
most blissful experience.
You know what? I can't wait. I'm so excited that I went, for World Pride and I had a good time, but it was just the start of Pride. So I'm excited because this weekend in New York, it's Brooklyn Pride. And then at the end of the month, it's like New York City Pride. And so
Oh yeah,
I'm
you're getting
excited that
everything
this like it's a
away.
whole month of celebration. Just like you, I'm ready to walk out sounding like a box of Kraft mac and cheese.
That's the sound good pussy
Um,
makes.
iconic internet history moments. Yeah, I love me a horse meet. I love going with friends. It's a different vibe in every city because I know they travel and they've done them in DC, they've done them in Chicago, like LA. And I think the original one was in London. And I went to the one in London. It's substantially toned down because they renovated the Eagle and they sort of revoked the quote unquote sex permit. So it's not
Mm,
lewd anymore, which boo. It's not the
boring.
Eagle. How are you going to call yourself the Eagle and not have sticky floors and men in jocks? And now you're just going to have
Seriously.
people smoking in beards and biker outfits, which that's
Y'all are
great.
not
But
living up to the fantasy that Chapo Roan wrote about. Damn it.
that and Harvey Milk was not killed for this. You
Precisely.
know, RIP Harvey. You know, we need sex at the Eagle. What
Mm-hmm.
is the Eagle without
Yeah.
sex?
Yeah, we needed the Eagle. We needed the Revolver. We needed these places, you know. That is the whole thing.
My question
Cruising is an
my
integral part
question,
of gay culture.
yes, love
Long live
cruising and
Sniffies.
I think as long as we're able to do it safely
Mm-hmm.
and, just somewhat discreetly away from the people who shouldn't see it, I think long live.
Tap
But
tap,
my
motherfucker.
my question I was going to ask
Uh
was,
huh.
out of those pride experiences, do you have like a favorite pride memory or interaction that you had that like you really still stayed with you?
Hmm. Okay, so that's an interesting one, actually, because each of my Pride experiences has been a weird mixed bag. 2019, for example, was fabulous. So many firsts for me, so many great experiences. I met this really sweet guy. He was
Mhm.
a Uber driver, and like he like got so into me. I was tipsy as fuck. He was
Oh
flirting with me
gosh.
heavily. He drove me to my place. He was like, "Do you want to go somewhere?" I said, "You know what? Yes." He took me to a Korean bathhouse in downtown LA. We went in,
Nice.
we sucked and fucked, and a total stranger, another guy there. I sucked his dick. It was beautiful for ages, and we had some people just sitting by the door, you know, waiting to hear when the people were coming to check on things, so we could just look like, oh, nothing's happening, nothing's happening. I think I actually had his dick in my mouth the whole time, and they were just covering me up, like, you know,
That's so
discreetly hiding
sweet.
me away, and I just kept his dick in my mouth. But that guy is the one I've kept in contact with all these years later. It's
Oh,
yeah. I wish I knew the Uber driver because he was a sweetheart too. But like no, just this one guy.
solidarity.
Yeah, just this one guy who was like balls deep in my throat, you know, in a dark, steamy room. But again, you know, in 2019, that's when I first found out I was HIV positive. When I lost my phone on a ride to the fucking parade, and then I had to figure out the
Oh,
whole procedure of getting home with nothing to my name but a tablet, my plane ticket, my bags, and $5 in cash.
oh,
And I
fuck.
just about made it. I thought I was going to end up homeless in LA.
And that's not a great place to be homeless, trust me.
Yeah. And then, like, okay, southern New Mexico, honestly, nothing really significant happened one way or the other. It was adorable and it was nice to be in Las Cruces. I love Las Cruces. The mountains there look like a fucking video game. They are unreal. They are massive. They are just jutting out of the landscape. They're gorgeous. And we used to travel there when I was little. So it was like just a huge nostalgia binge. And
Oh,
again, I met a bunch of really sweet people there. And 2023 was also awesome. Like I said, Horse Meat Disco. I got to do a full run of Universal Studios, including Super Mario World, and I met
how was
wonderful
that? I
people.
still haven't even been.
It's really good, but oh my gosh, the lines! And this was when it was closed. But yeah, they had like two breakdowns on the Mario Karts. So I think I managed to do every ride that time. I skipped a whole. I didn't know there was a whole downstairs section to Universal Studios the first time I went in 2019. Oh, also 2018, I got to go to a Dodgers game. I know nothing about baseball. I don't care about baseball, but I got a free bag out of it. And they had amazing garlic fries. So that is
I
a gorgeous memory right there.
I'm
Garlic
a Cubs
fries.
fan. I
Mm.
actually just it's so cute. They had a gay night out for like baseball in DC and it was the Nationals against the Cubs. So,
Yeah, that's what
Chicago,
mine was
where I'm
too. It was
partly
like an
from.
LA Pride special game. Yeah. And then 2023. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was
Oh,
just
yeah.
gonna finish with I actually went with IBM and they were
Oh,
giving out these really cute rainbow jerseys with like the black and brown stripes and the trans flag.
that's
And they
awesome.
yes, and but I didn't unfortunately get a jersey because the lady at the front was being a fascist and she said your ticket has to specifically say Nats Night Out on it, even though they were free. And so IBM saw like an extra jersey, but it was a large. So he ended up keeping one, which
Oh,
I'm really happy about. But I didn't get to get one, which is totally fine. I would rather have like a rainbow Cubs jersey, in my opinion.
yeah. I love that story. Oh my god. But yeah,
She was
2023.
so
Oh
mean.
my god. Let's find her. Let's puncture her tires.
Yeah, ticket lady, if you're hearing me, you didn't let a twunk get his jersey, and it was not fair.
Yeah. Oh, honestly, my time is unlimited. Unlimited.
Limited.
God, you're so gay. I
Oh,
love it for us.
yeah,
So,
this is a pride
uh-huh.
pride chat.
We've been talking a
This is a
lot
pride
about
talk
gay
for sure.
history. We've been talking a lot about gay history. Any
Hmm.
figures that stick out in particular for you?
Ooh, yes. I mean, I think I mentioned before a quote by Gore Vidal. I loved
Mm-hmm.
how witty and how articulate he was, and he was so incredibly prescient about the state of American politics. I mean, he, it's a very radical thing, but he was corresponding in letters with the Oklahoma bomber Timothy McVeigh,
Mm-hmm.
pardon me, who bombed for his dissatisfaction with like the American government and how they failed to protect, the troops and how they failed to just so much interventionism and imperialism that had gone wrong, especially in like the 80s and 90s and early thousands. And I I think Gore would not be here today even if he were still alive. I mean, he would be very old, obviously, but out of the sheer rage of seeing how much we have devolved and how we elected, Trump into power
Mm-hmm.
and how we've just gone almost nuclear with like imperial policy, especially with what's going on with Israel and Gaza and the genocide and,
Mm-hmm.
pulling out of Afghanistan. Um, I remember he did so many interviews, talking about just the military industrial complex. And that's how I actually first learned about him when I was doing my research on when I, that night that I found out and I decided, well, I guess I'm gay, at the
Mm-hmm.
time. And I like boys and this is my community. Well, if this is my community, I'm going to do everything in my power to learn about it. So I literally went through the internet and looked at every article I could and every Wikipedia article
You
and
had
like
your Mike
portal.
Nelson doing the "Am I Gay" quiz moment,
Yes.
Heartstopper.
Am I gay, but also, who made me gay and
Mm-hmm.
who came before me so that I can honor those people and I can remember them in the correct way because it was almost like like a studying course, like it turned it into a homework assignment. I really could have built a thesis and there's this particularly special section of Wikipedia that is LGBT history, throughout the world and it goes by country.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I learned about, Christopher Isherwood and Don Bacardi, who are two of my favorite historical figures as well. Christopher Isherwood was a prolific author of not just queer themes, but also just an incredible writer. And
Yeah.
he was an English author and he became an expat and American
Mm-hmm.
shortly before Hitler came into power. He actually at the time of the Sex Institute being burned down, he was, you could say, living it up
Mm-hmm.
in Weimar, Germany, because it was very much a um,
Gay utopia.
a gay utopia at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and that's his writings inspired a play which inspired the musical and film Cabaret, which
Yep.
is as we are talking now, very much about the times we are living in now and exactly what's happening
And
today.
funnily
So,
enough, I love that you
mhm.
mentioned Isherwood. Like last this Sunday, but like the Sunday before, right now, we had just watched the BBC movie Christopher and His Kind, which has Matt Smith
Oh,
in the role as Christopher Isherwood.
yes.
Hmm. And so like yes, this is incredibly something relatable, something relevant, something brilliant.
And I would say, apart from Christopher Sherwood and his partner, Don Bacardi, who he met when he was young, talk about an age gap relationship that would, light Twitter on fire if they heard about it. He was 17 when they met, and I think Christopher Isherwood was late 30s, early 40s. But either way, he inspired him and put him through school to become an incredible painter, and I actually had the very brilliant honor and privilege of meeting him and being sketched and painted by him. And there is a portrait of mine currently at the Huntington Museum, painted by Don Bacardi by him. So and Don, fun fact, Don Bacardi, and during one of our paintings, I said, could we do a nude one, because I noticed he had other nudes, and he showed me them, and he said yes. And while he was painting me, he said, "You have a lovely penis. Pardon me for saying so. It will take you very far in life." So a gay historical figure has complimented my
He's
penis.
pretty right about that.
Someone else I deeply admire was James Baldwin. I mean, I'm obviously going after the authors I love to read, and
Hmm.
he did Giovanni's Room, but he also wrote an incredible book that wasn't queer, but it was what was it? I think it's was it Beale Street? Um, and if Beale Street Could Talk, and it's about a lovely young black couple who are torn apart by a false allegation that lands the the boy her boyfriend and her partner in jail. And it's a great examination of, racial politics and the criminal justice system and how it's unfairly biased. Um, I actually just reposted a quote of James Baldwin. He said, "It took many years of vomiting up all the filth I'd been taught about myself and half believed before I was able to walk on this earth as though I had a right to be here."
You know what? Cue Sunday School
And
by River Weston. That
yes,
feels very like apropos to the
oh,
lyrics for Sunday. Have you listened to the new song?
I have not. I will. What's it
I
called again?
Sunday School by River Weston. But
Ooh, I
that
like
is,
the title.
yeah, that is very much the theme of the song. It is like about, just letting go of everything that you were taught growing up. The things that you were told are fact, the things you were told are the truths, are the rules, shedding it so you can live as you are, live your truth, become the person you're supposed to be.
Yeah. Other queer historical figures I love, obviously Frida Kahlo, being of Mexican
Hmm.
American descent. And she was so much more nuanced than people think. She was not just flower crowns and pastels or
No.
having a pet monkey or
Yeah.
being, a strong Latin woman. She was incredibly disabled and like in a lot of severe pain, like crippling, debilitating pain that
Hmm.
made her life almost impossible to go on. So talk about someone who we should speak more about in light of how she barely could get around and she was in excruciating pain. And while no one should be able to live like that, she still excelled and managed to, follow her heart and life's work. And I think her destiny of making art based off her pain and her lived experience. But I definitely believe that her being, handicapped and how much she suffered is not spoken about enough, as her image has very much been commodified, as is wont to be, for many companies and figures during Pride Month typically.
Hmm.
Although not this year because so many people chickened out and did not. So many companies chickened out and did not put out the rainbows.
Hmm.
Um, I would say also Larry Kramer, wrote the play The Normal Heart and, was one of the co-founders of ACT UP. I
Hmm.
have a great shirt with the pink triangle on ACT UP, and I do donate to them often. I think they're still an important organization. And he wrote Faggots, which I think I would describe my mix of writing as between, Jane Austen-esque, not to overhype myself, but I think she was a very good reader of people and class dynamics and almost like an anthropologist of sorts. And a mix of her and Gore Vidal and Larry Kramer and his scathing, portrayal and dressing down of queer men, that listened to him and mocked him too late. And obviously, goes without saying, but Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, who founded STAR, which was I think it was transvestites and actions revolutionaries, and they were largely ignored, they were not um idolized and saint and sort of granted sainthood the way that many queer men and women treat them today. They were people that they passed by on the street and ignored.
Hmm.
And they, put on the sidelines and marginalized because it wasn't hip, not that it's hip now, to be friends with many trans people, depending on what circle you're in, or even to be trans and to exist, which is ridiculous. But
Yeah.
it's important to remember how much of an isolated existence and how, many of these women, specifically, trans women and queer figures as well, struggled with mental health
Hmm.
and led very lonely lives.
It's
Um,
interesting too
s-
because we opened up our conversation thanks to our little friends in chat talking about sex workers and such, and it makes me think about the way our community, for all its good, is still so victimized by the prospect of othering. We other trans people,
Hmm.
we other sex workers. There's people in our community who are just as valid, just as important,
Hmm.
just as necessary to the fight for us, that we are
Yeah,
pushing away, locking up, and saying, no, you're not part of it. We don't want you around.
but
And
we'll act as though we were there from the beginning somehow.
yeah.
And also, it is another white man, but he was a very talented white man, nonetheless. He just recently passed away. His name was Edmund White, and he was an incredible author. And he wrote a trilogy of books that were fictionalized, but they were based completely wholly on his experience. Starting with the book called A Boy's Own Story, and that reading that book really validated how my experiences from childhood and being othered were still very valid and something that I could turn into writing into a story to tell to others and to strengthen myself and put confidence in me. So I'm very sad that I never got the chance to meet him. I would have hoped he would have at least, appreciated or acknowledged at the very least my writing.
And okay, so I know with Angel, one of his favorite artists is, of course, Basquiat.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for me, honestly, I wish I am very sadly like underdeveloped when it comes to art. I know art. I know the things I love to look at, but it's like put a name to it, and I
Hmm.
struggle. And like, but Basquiat does stand out, and they had a beautiful exhibit for him when I was in LA. I think 2023 is when it was, and it was gorgeous. And
Um,
it really stands out. And I did get to see a lot of other art too. I think a version of the Candy exhibit was at one of the museums I went to,
mhm.
and
Oh,
uh-huh.
oh yes, they have that. Are you talking about the AIDS candy?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They have that at the at the American Art Museum in DC. I saw that this last week.
Mm. That one was.
But they edited the sign so it no longer even speaks about the actual meaning, and there's no mention of AIDS
It's
or
disgust.
HIV.
It takes away.
Disgusting.
Yeah, it takes away everything about it. It's
Hmm.
meaningless now.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
It bastardizes and dilutes the whole vision.
Yeah.
Um, what And one other historical figure that I actually was on a date yesterday and I brought this up.
Oh.
Did you know that Tchaikovsky was gay? I didn't know, which makes complete sense. I mean, the man wrote Swan Lake as his very
Mm-hmm.
first ballet.
Oh yeah.
But I brought up to my date that it's still a mystery about how he died, but his final composition is described as an elegy, both in his tone and mood of how he composed it and how um he wrote, I think, in his personal writings, and he also there was someone I believe it was his nephew who wrote that the composition, and I can look up the name of it if you want to
Sure.
write it down or like let someone know because it's very queer in its expression of it basically tells a story of
Love that.
of queer identity and finding love as a it's Tchaikovsky's Symphony Number 6, and it's Pathétique, that the secret program of the symphony is about love between men, the
Mm-hmm.
search for it from the beginning of the first movement, finding it, and the romantic andante theme, and the attacks of a hostile world on it. And in the agitated Allegro vivo passage that follows, the escape from the hostile world, in the return to the love theme, and the last movement, Karlinsky was told, is an elegy for a dead lover. And that's, the last final composition that a queer artist made, and it was about finding queer love and discovering it and also remembering a lost lover. And I really think that that's the history we should know. That's so
That the
beautiful.
story reminds me vaguely of the entire story behind the actual um, Little Mermaid story,
Yes,
except in
I
that case
love
that
that
was fully
story.
unrequited love, which is horrendous and heartbreaking.
Oh, it's the saddest.
And the way that, in the end, when she fails to get him, she just
Mm-hmm.
turns to sea foam, which
Oh.
devastating, but also beautiful imagery. And then, of course, the way that people were so devastated reading the story that it was sort of amended to where, oh, it's okay, she lived on as a spirit and she got to do good deeds to, get an afterlife, even though she didn't have a soul because she's not human. Which, fuck Christianity for fucking up a good story with bullshit like that. But I mean, what can you do? What can you do?
I love that story because
Yeah.
I feel like I know Disney's a corporation and such, but I feel like Disney giving Ariel and like The Little Mermaid a happy ending and it being beloved by the queer community as a whole and it having very strong and deep like trans metaphors and allegories. I feel like it's almost like a full circle happy ending, although not truly happy ending for Hans
Yeah.
Christian Andersen. Is there anything else that you would like to ask me before I bid you adieu?
Yes. Let's see here. I'm going to try to end on one good question where I could just sit back, let you talk. We don't have to worry about speakers or interference or anything. Let's see here. What does pride mean to you, end of the day? And what would you like to see in your future prides, in your future life?
Mhm. For me, this year, I think I finally settled on the meaning of pride as I was watching Troye Sivan and the fireworks explode in a whole crowd of tens of thousands of people cheer for Troy and a lot of other queer artists on stage as he simulated various sex moves with the and positions with his dancers and truly just embraced being fully queer and nothing was edited out or censored. For me it means, like I said, being apologetically ourselves, myself, being proud of my flaws, being
Mm-hmm.
honest about it, and not
God, you
hiding
said
my
that again.
imperfections, not on it, being honest about my imperfections while remaining dedicated to perpetual self-improvement. It also means fighting for everyone who is going through a tougher time than me, who's invisible, who doesn't feel heard. I think, given that I'm a cis man, I can be doing more and I will be doing more to support and advocate for the trans community. But any form of privilege that we have, we should be using it. I think right now we should be Pride is about fighting for the men and women and children and non-binary people who are, undergoing a brutal genocide in Gaza at the moment. And pardon me. And I believe that that also means remembering how many people, not just in cities like New York or, places that hold pride parades, because many places won't be having any pride celebrations. Many
I
places
definitely will
won't be
not be having
having
any in this town.
yeah, many places won't be having any safe spaces, any bathhouses, any gay bars. And so to remember when we talk about red states, when we talk about flyover countries or states, in regions that have gone unheard, that not only puts people in the margins and it creates resentment, but we're also isolating other members of our community and the beautiful rainbow that we have. And as someone who lives now in a city, I think pride is about remembering all those little boys and all those little girls and other people that vary from that gender binary who are living in those towns and who might want to live in a city or who might not even want to live in a city at all. But we have to remember that when we fight for rights, just because we have considerable larger amount of privilege or we feel like we have our chosen family and we finally made it and we're happy does not mean that that dream has been achieved for everyone. And I
Precisely.
think that, especially now, thanks to that asshole in office, we need to remember that we're now more under attack than ever. And simply because we're no longer under attack as individuals, or, for me being a cisgender man, um, I, I think it's incredibly important to remember where we come from, and or if we didn't come from a certain background or a place, to remember that there's so many other people that we need to be helping. Right now, Pride for me is about resistance. It's about helping the marginalized and the other, and remembering where we come from and all the men and women and non-binary people who helped us get here and carve that path for us so that every color of that rainbow could be earned.
I love all of that. Now
Thank you.
that is a final note.
and I have my longtime friend, and we're gonna be friends for a considerably longer time. So get used to it.
Thank you.
I love you so much.
I love you
Have a
too.
happy Pride,
Happy Pride.
and thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Anytime, any day, anywhere. I love you.
Hi, happy
Have a great
Pride.
day. Bye.
This program is made possible by
and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.